a buzz on the nightstand, a ping echoing in the silence. For most of us, a text message is routine, harmless even. But in the fall of 2021, for the students of a small town in Michigan, those pings would soon become the soundtrack to a nightmare. On a chilly September evening, 16-year-old Emma received a message from an unknown number. The text read, "I saw you last night." At first, she thought it was a joke from a classmate. But then came another. "Your secret isn't safe." The wording was too personal, too sharp. Someone seemed to know things about her they shouldn't. Within days, more students started receiving similar messages. The texts referenced private conversations, daily outfits, and even details of family life at home. One boy reported that the sender described what he ate for dinner the night before. This was no prank. This was someone who was watching. Parents began to notice their children acting strangely. Phones were silenced at dinner. Social media accounts were deleted overnight. Students whispered in hallways, glancing nervously at their screens. By October, nearly a dozen teenagers had come forward, each with the same story. A faceless figure hiding behind a number that refused to go away. The town, quiet, middle-class, and tight-knit, was shaken. In a place where nothing ever seemed to happen, a predator had made their way into the very pockets of their children. The tone of the messages soon shifted from unsettling to terrifying. They became darker, threatening. "I see you when you sleep. You can't hide." Students began to feel as though they were being stalked. Bedroom curtains were drawn. Lights were left on at night. Families started checking doors and windows twice, sometimes 3 times before bed. Emma's mother recalled the night her daughter burst into tears after her phone buzzed past midnight. The text had read, "Don't bother locking the window. I've already seen inside." For the first time in years, parents sat outside their children's bedrooms until morning, just to reassure them they weren't alone. As the terror spread, the police became involved. Detectives traced numbers, but every lead went cold. Whoever was behind the harassment wasn't just tech-savvy. They were deliberate, using rerouting apps and anonymous texting services to conceal their identity. Detective Mark Willis, one of the lead investigators, later explained, "This wasn't just a kid pulling a prank. Whoever it was, they knew how to cover their tracks. They were careful, almost too careful." The FBI's cybercrime task force was even consulted, but without direct evidence, progress stalled. Students continued to suffer while parents demanded answers. By late November, the messages had escalated again. They were no longer just threats. They were commands. One boy received a text ordering him to meet behind the gym alone. Another was told to skip class or risk having private information exposed to the entire school. The unknown number wasn't just watching anymore. It was controlling. Some students complied out of fear. Others resisted, but the consequences were severe. Embarrassing secrets, sometimes distorted, sometimes real, were shared with classmates. The victims felt cornered, powerless, and humiliated. One student described it later. "It wasn't just about being bullied online. It felt like this person was everywhere. At school, at home, even in my head. I couldn't escape." As weeks passed, detectives began piecing together the puzzle. The sender seemed to know the routines of the victims, when they were in class, where they lived, who they hung out with. This wasn't the work of a stranger sitting miles away behind a screen. This was someone close, someone who blended in, unnoticed. By December, suspicion was beginning to spread. Students whispered about possible culprits. Some blamed classmates, others accused teachers. Trust crumbled. The entire community was living under the shadow of a faceless tormentor. And no one felt safe. By early 2022, months of sleepless nights and unanswered questions had taken their toll. Parents were furious. Students were traumatized. And the police were under pressure to find the person responsible. Then came the breakthrough. Detectives discovered that some of the rerouted messages had originated from a location just miles from the high school. A trail of digital breadcrumbs, carefully hidden, had finally slipped. Surveillance and subpoenas followed. Slowly, the picture came into focus. On a cold January morning, police cars pulled up to a modest suburban home. The neighbors watched from their porches as officers escorted a woman into custody. The unknown number, wasn't an anonymous hacker from across the country. It wasn't a stranger lurking in the shadows. It was a 23-year-old former student of the very same high school. The arrest shocked the town. This was someone many of the victims had once passed in hallways. Someone who knew the rhythm of small-town life because she had lived it herself. The motive emerged slowly. Jealousy, resentment, a twisted need for control. Investigators revealed that the woman had struggled after leaving high school. Watching others move on, college, relationships, and new lives, she felt left behind. Through anonymous messages, she found power. With each text, she manipulated her victims like pawns in a cruel game. Parents were enraged. Victims were devastated. As one mother said during a school meeting, "Our kids were terrified. They stopped sleeping, stopped eating, and no one protected them. The betrayal is worse because she was one of us." The case moved swiftly through the courts. Charges included stalking, harassment, and cybercrimes. During the trial, prosecutors detailed the methods she used. Apps that rerouted numbers, stolen Wi-Fi connections, carefully timed messages designed to strike when her victims were most vulnerable. Victims and their families testified about the toll the harassment had taken. Panic attacks, lost friendships, declining grades. One father told the court, "Every time my son's phone buzzed, he froze. He'd break into a sweat like he was bracing for another attack." The defendant showed little remorse. Her defense argued she was struggling with mental health and loneliness. But the jury was unconvinced. The verdict, guilty. The sentence, several years behind bars. The conviction brought relief, but not healing. The damage was already done. For many students, the fear lingered long after the messages stopped. Every phone buzz felt like a threat. Every late-night shadow brought memories of the anonymous tormentor. Emma, one of the first victims, admitted, "Even now, I can't trust my phone. It feels like it's watching me." Parents continued to question how something so sinister could unfold right under their noses, in a town where everyone thought they knew each other. The unknown number case left scars, but it also sparked conversations. Schools implemented stronger digital safety programs. Parents monitored devices more closely. Students became more cautious online. But the haunting truth remained. Technology had given one person the power to terrify an entire community. And it reminded everyone that behind every text, behind every notification, there is a sender. Sometimes the ones we trust most are the ones we should fear. Please share your view on this case by subscribing and leaving a comment in the box below.